three. Who did I have three?
I think you agreed with me on Clay.
Yeah, I agree with you on Clay.
But you
two,
had JK.
I had Kuminga at 2.
So if I took Steph off, Steph's obvious, right?
Right.
To me, it's Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is the most important Warrior over the final 22 games. And the reason why I think it's Steve Kerr is because I think he's going to have to really play the orchestra perfectly here and utilize all the instruments that are in the band. Yep. And I think it's easier said than done. On any given night, someone's going to get shortchanged, and there will be an opportunity to critique a lineup, a guy playing X amount of minutes when he should have played less or more. I think it's going to be very difficult to balance all of these plates.
No, I like that thought process, and I'm with you there. I think the final 5 minutes, the final lineup, we heard Chris Paul saying, hey, Steve Kerr told us he's going to mess up at times. Because, look, Steph and Dre are going to be in that closing lineup. No doubt about it. We got Slater on the line. We're going to ask him in just a second. But there's 3 spots, and there's 5 other players that are, you could put in that final lineup. It's Clay, it's Wiggins, it's JK, it's Pods, it's Chris Paul. What 5 players are going to fit into those 3 spots alongside Draymond and Steph? So I'm kind of with you there with the Steve Kerr. It's an out-of-the-box thought there, but Steve Kerr definitely has to navigate this deep, deep roster here as we bring in our 95-70 Game Insider. Anthony Slater does a terrific job for The Athletic. Back from the road trip. Anthony, good morning, man. What's going on with you, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm good. Kind of fired up here, man. I walked, I was a little groggy this morning, but no, fired up in terms of it's playoff time. It feels like in the NBA. Last night's games were the doubleheader on TNT was excellent. Boston, Cleveland, Cleveland coming back and winning that game. Great defense by Garland on Jason Tatum. Then you get the overtime game with Phoenix and Denver. So you could feel the urgency now in the NBA as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. And we're kind of go over the Warriors' last 22 games here. You zoom out at the schedule. You look at the schedule here. You know that they play the Lakers, Mavericks 5 times. They play the Pelicans as well. What's a reasonable record for the Warriors over the next 22 games here, if you consider that they're all healthy and they're playing in every single game?
Well, first of all, the Boston-Cleveland game was like it was an example of like why you keep your challenges, right?
Right.
Why to have your challenge in the last minute. Don't just be frustrated with a call in the first quarter and just bump out and be like, I'm challenging.
Right.
But anyway, that wasn't your question.
That's a good thought. You pulled a Bonte Hill right there. I like that.
There you go. Oh, I don't know. I mean, 16 wins maybe is like the target. To me, the big thing right now, I know obviously like the 6th seed is like the holy grail, like get up to that, avoid the play-in. But to me, getting in the 7-8 side of the bracket, and they're not far from that. The Kings have tumbled. The Mavericks, who they play 3 more times. I feel like every time I see Brandon Pajemski, he's like, we got the Mavericks 3 more times. They've
lost 5 to 6, Anthony. Mavericks started to cut you off. They lost 5 to 6.
Yeah, no, you're right, exactly. So, like, there's a lot of vulnerability right there. The Lakers, are right next to the Warriors. So, I mean, you could be in, like, the 7-8 side of the bracket, like, within the week. But, again, I don't know how many out of 22 you're necessarily going to have to win. That's going to depend on what happens above you. And to me, what's happened above them lately has been very, it's been optimistic for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you yesterday reported that Andrew Wiggins is coming back, and, everyone's very excited, and they want to see him. And I'm just going to go with myself. Like, I had some stuff going on in my life, and I came back to work and didn't know that I had to also leave again and come back. Obviously, we're not divulging exactly what's going on, but is the expectation that he's here for the remainder of the year, or is it just unknown?
I mean, I would say the hope would be he is. Again, I mean, he even said it yesterday. This isn't like a completely solved issue. But, he's planning to be here. And like, as you mentioned, like life can throw curveballs. So I certainly he couldn't guarantee it and I can't guarantee it.
Right. And Anthony, though, I do want to put the focus on him on the court because, yeah, sure, he stepped away for 4 games. Hopefully he handled everything and everything's okay with Andrew Wiggins. But before he stepped away, his last 16 games, he's been trending up. And it's not just the numbers. I look at the efficiency, the 46% from 3 to over 50% for the field. Andrew Wiggins was shooting in his last 16 games. We've seen that Andrew Wiggins. We've seen glimpses of the guy that helped lead the Warriors to a championship a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we've seen like full 2022 playoffs because,
right.
as I've mentioned in the past, that was like Scottie Pippen for 2 months.
Right.
But it was like the Andrew Wiggins they need, which is like 17 a game, decent efficiency, hit the open three, maybe late in the shot clock once or twice a game, go get a bucket. And then it was a good, solid defense, right? It's like, hey, guard Jamal Murray for stretches, guard Kyrie Irving, whoever. And the biggest thing was him and Kuminga could play together again. Now, a lot of that was Draymond, but I think the fact that they solved that before the trade deadline meant that Andrew Wiggins was still here post-deadline. So I agree with you. Everything was going well, and he missed a road trip. Yeah, I understand it was personal reasons. I understand fans want to know more, and there's more concern of hey, it might be the whole season again. But the reality is, if he just tweaked an ankle and missed 4 games, nobody would care.
Right.
So
that's true.
That's basically what happened.
Yeah, that's true. I listed my top 3 most important Warriors, okay, heading into this 22-game stretch. I got Klay Thompson at 3. I got Draymond Green at 2. Steph is an assumed important Warrior, so I took him off the board. My number 1 was Steve Kerr because I think he has a very difficult job that's easy to criticize from afar, but balancing all of the lineups, the connectivity, the minutes, the tug and pull from playing young guys and developing them while trying to win, and the old guys, I just think he has a really difficult job ahead of him, and I think he's the most important Warrior. Who is your most important Warrior final 22 games?
Well, I would say Steph Curry, right? I mean, when he's really hot, like, they're a championship team. When he's not, they're not, and it fluctuates. But according to your rules, I can't choose him.
Yeah,
so,
it's assumed.
I think that's a good answer. I think the closing lineups we're going to track every game. He's definitely Steve Kerr's going to be under a big spotlight. How about just the rotation tonight?
Yeah,
this is the first time since November in Sacramento they have all 14 players available. He's already said like 11 is a stretch for him to go to. So let's say 10 essentially. Like, find the 4 Warriors that don't play tonight. I think you're going to go. Guy Santos is not in the rotation. Yeah. Quinones is not in the rotation. It gets tough after that. You're talking about 12 for 10. I mean, and to me, who we're really talking about on the back end is Sarge heading towards DMPs. He said Moody's going to be in the rotation, and then Peyton and Looney. And I mean, those are like all 4 guys he trusts, guys who've been in closing playoff lineups during the championship run. Like, who to you guys is guy 11, 12 tonight, where it's out of the rotation and maybe barely getting any minutes?
Doesn't it? It has to go by matchups, right? Like the Bucks matchup will be different against the Bulls, and the Bulls matchup is different than the Spurs or whatnot. Are you just going to stay with the consistent one? I mean, to me, Anthony, Steve Kerr's going to have to play this game by game.
He is, but you still kind of like, they like to have that like start of the second, start of the fourth quarter unit, like know that they're playing together. And like at some point you kind of like, it sounds like because of the way Moody performed when Wiggins was out, he wants to give Moody a rotation chance even with the full roster available. That's still, if you're the 10th, 11th man, that still might be like 8-10 minutes. But that's still, is that taking, like, is Sarge now a DMP? Like that's one of my questions. Right. Looney has this incredible games played streak, second in the league behind Mikal Bridges. DNP would end that. Like, is that possibly heading toward an end? Is it absurd of me to say like Peyton might be on the edge right now? Yeah. I mean, he can be so good, but like you got to find somebody. Yeah,
no, I mean, real quick on Sarge, you see the splits here in the month of February. The shooting numbers are just not good. 20% from 3, 35.5% from the floor, and he got off to a really hot start this season for the Dubs. What is God? Is it just fatigue? Is he short on his shots? What are you seeing here up close with Dario Saric?
I really think the Chris Paul hand injury kind of hurt him more than anybody. He was playing a lot with Paul in the second unit. He was used to him in Phoenix. They were doing the pick and pop, pick and roll game, mid post touches that Paul would kind of operate and get him into. To me, if you look at his numbers, I haven't done the exact this date to this date, but I bet if you looked at pre and post Chris Paul injury, Sarge's numbers kind of tank a little bit. Right. So I think there's some of that. And to me, he's got to hit his threes, right? That's why he's out there. He's spacing the floor. So he's just got to hit them more often. And then I think they don't have to do the post touches as much. How many times this season is he having in the post, trying to go against a slightly smaller defender, trying to cross court pass that doesn't make it, stuff like that.
Steph Curry, what's going on with the knee? I know that he's going to play through things. He's a warrior. On literally and on the floor and stuff, but how is that knee holding up?
Yeah, he said he just banged it, like kind of diving for a loose ball that ended in a Kuminga dunk in Toronto. Bursitis means like there's like a bursa sac, I guess, on the front of the knee. I got to learn way too much of this stuff in my career, but that like it swells up. So it was a little swollen, but he said it felt fine by morning of the Boston game. Tested it out pregame, it was fine. So it does not. It just sounds like one of those minor bumps that happens over the course of the year. And the truth is, we probably would have never known about it, but the Warriors are very cautious about if there's a chance you might suddenly sit out, particularly Steph on an ABC game. They don't want it to be like the Embiid situation, remember, where he wasn't on the injury report.
Right.
And then 5 minutes before tip, it was like Embiid's out, and everybody freaked out because it was the Embiid-Jokic game.
Right.
They just didn't want to suddenly shut down Steph before the Boston game and, ABC go crazy because suddenly Steph Curry's not playing, so they put him on the injury report.
The loss to the Celtics, lost by 52. We know all the historical numbers and the data or whatnot. I didn't take it as like, oh, man, this is the end-all, be-all. They can't beat a great team. It's one of those clunkers that happens in the NBA now. This was a historic one, no doubt, but you go 3-1 on a 4-game road trip, and I look at 13-4 in the last 17. So it's the best I felt about this team in a long time here, Anthony. Is the Boston game something or nothing?
I think, and a lot of people have kind of opinionated this way. To me, it said more about Boston and Boston's upside than like the Warriors' downside. I do think that like they've shown over the last few weeks that they're, like profiling as like a really solid, sturdy, like 5-6 seed type team. I'm talking about the Warriors, whereas they 2 games they've lost. Denver kind of showed them the level they're not at in the West, and Boston, I think, overall showed them the level that they're not currently at. I'm skeptical they can eventually get there. But Steph the other day, he mentioned, hey, look, in a playoff series when they can make adjustments game to game, they have proved in the past, like they can solve the team. How many times have they been down 2-1, but they feel like schematically they solved something? Mm-hmm. It's a little bit why they were saying, hey, look, we tried this Jaylen Brown, like leave him the other day. It didn't work, but hey, might as well try it in case down the line we think it's a good thing to go to. I don't know. That was a little bit strange, but I don't know how did you guys feel? Like, I'm not suddenly saying, oh, the season's about to tank.
I threw it away. I mean, the fact that they won the Toronto game, you heard about all the travel. You were on that road trip. The fact that they won the Toronto game and outscored them 59-41 in the second half, it's like you're playing with house money. That was a free roll Sunday against Boston.
Yeah, and I think they pulled the plug early. So like when Jaylen Brown started hitting the three, it was like, well, that's not working. And then just being in the building, Boston was fired up. That crowd was fired up. ABC Sunday, they have been crushing teams lately. They just set an NBA record for 50-point wins in a season. Right. Although I know they lost last night, but like they were just geared up to do that to the Warriors.
Jaylen Brown said it at halftime. Yeah, we still think about that finals loss. It's like, dude, you better get over it because you're not winning the 2022 ring with a Sunday performance like he had.
They've got a 49er feel to them.
Who, the Boston Celtics?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
The regular season monsters, and then, can't win the big one. Anthony, you've been following this team like we have. You've been on this train every day for many, many years. And I just, had a little time off, and I was thinking, just, zooming out, this team is so reliant, this year's team, especially the last couple of months, on Podziemski, 19 years old, on Jonathan Kuminga, 21 years old. What changed? What changed psychologically for the core of this team that got them to accept and empower these young guys? Because a year ago, I feel like everything was being blamed on all the young players, and a lot has changed. And I'm just, what was that moment?
Well, you mentioned it. We've watched the whole season. Like there shouldn't be too much confusion. It's moments like Sacramento where Klay Thompson is in a deep early season slump. Moses Moody comes in, hits 3 threes, then gets benched, and then they lose in Sacramento. And you're like, anyone watching the game's like, hey, the hottest guy in the building should have probably been on the floor, right? Or it's the Kuminga situation where there's been times where he's been benched, or that DNP against Portland that he suddenly comes in for the last 17 minutes and he's the best player on the floor and he leads them to a comeback win, and it creates natural questions of like, was he going to be a DNP tonight? Why is Andrew Wiggins playing over him, even though Andrew Wiggins is having the worst offensive season of his career at that point? You see Looney's had some struggles, and then Trace Jackson-Davis comes in against Boston, that home game I'm talking about, and blocks Jaylen Brown twice at the rim. And anybody who's watched this team is like, who else is blocking Jaylen Brown at the rim? And it's like, well, that's a dimension that they kind of need. Podziemski, he just does so much of what Steve Kerr loves, what the Warriors love, that he was kind of an immediate plug and play. And, you know, again, so it's a combination of the veterans struggling and the rookies actually, or the young guys actually being ready. And when you play over the course of an 82-game season, those trends start to mean something, particularly after 20 games is the sample size in the NBA that numbers people like to use. It became really obvious, right? I mean, we all talk about it every week.
Bob Myers back in the building for the first time since he stepped down as president of basketball operations with the Golden State Warriors, man. It's going to be intriguing to see him. Look, we know Dub Nation's going to give him a standing ovation and a rousing ovation. How long do you see Bob Myers being in television? Is he going to be on a call for the Milwaukee or for the ESPN game telecast? Obviously, it's going to be on ABC Sports too, but it's going to be calling the game for ESPN. How long do you see him in that role, Anthony?
We'll see. I think that depends on which situations open up across the league, how he's enjoying TV, what kind of blank check he potentially will get. You know, like, and I'm not reporting anything at all, but like, let's say, you know, the Clippers situation at some point over the next few years leads to any type of, you know, management change. You know, Steve Ballmer can pay a lot of money. LA is a pretty appealing place to live. But does Bob Myers want to do that? Does he want the stresses of it? When you talk to him, he is seeming to enjoy this more kind of nebulous, you know, lifestyle where you can kind of do this or that. He's at the NFL Combine helping the Commanders out. He's, you know, he's doing the game today.
Anthony, do you think he likes on? I want you to be on it. This is you. You're not reporting it. Do you think he likes arguing with Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith?
I think he doesn't mind being like hey, I'm the insider that's explaining to you guys that, like, you've been wrong all these years. Some of these opinions, like, I think he's like a little of that. I mean, I'm sure some of the rhetoric and topics that he's forced to talk to probably get annoying. I'm sure every time they're like, hey, look, we need you on this Warriors topic, he's like, don't really want to do that. But, but I mean, yeah, probably is enjoying it. Like, he likes to be seen and heard. He's a personality.
Is that a baby in the background screaming?
Yeah, what is going on? What's going on, bro? We've been wondering.
So he's chasing me around the house, and I'm trying to get away from him, and I'm like circling.
How old? How old?
He's 11 months this week. And he wants me to pay more attention to him right now, but I'm just sprinting away from him.
You know what? I had that. I know the exact same feeling. During the radio hit, and the baby's running around. You close the room door, and she's, Papa, Papa, Papa. And it's like, all right, come on, let's go. I mean, I know what you're going through right now. So it always makes for an interesting interview, though.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Tell little man we said what's up.
He was quiet the first half, and then suddenly he just wanted to scream and chase me around.
What's his name?
So I've been like sprinting. It's AJ. He's a junior. So
AJ. Hopefully he's not like the kid in The Sopranos, man. AJ was.
I think AJ ended up being in the mob. Let's
not put that on him.
No, we're not going to put that on him. We're not going to put that on AJ.
Thanks for coming on, Anthony. And tell AJ. Call into the roast anytime he wants.
Yeah, I mean, he might be probably 2 years from now. I'm sure.
Me and him can cry together.
AJ, Anthony, you guys take care. I'll see you a little later at the arena, Anthony. Thanks for the time as always.
All right, fellas.
Anytime. Anthony Slater, 95.7 The Game Insider here on the Morning Roast.